This real estate stuff is not easy, so send me your questions and I will answer them. This is the Ask Jason Show. Hello everybody, my name is Jason Piercey, and this is episode, I'm gonna call it 122 of the Ask Jason Show. I'm calling it 122 because we were just gonna do 121 as like what did we call it? Just like the reintroduction, the comeback, that whole thing. But then when we posted the trailer, which by the way, Joe is so glad you liked it. I'm telling you, this is the first piece of content that Joe has ever, literally ever, and there's been hundreds and hundreds of things that you've done, ever made for me, where his wife texted me and asked if I had released it yet. Because she was like, did you put it up yet? Oh, it's so good. I was like, I'm literally uploading it right now. God, can we like settle down? What was that? And yeah, first time ever. So all of the love and stuff that came from it, holy shitballs. So today, it's very, very timely. We're gonna talk about stonks today. And I don't know if you don't get that reference. It's just stocks. And people who like go on and on and on about stocks, and then I'm a forex trader and like crypto and like bruh, and I don't know, I don't even know who this. I'm really sorry. I understand that like maybe not any particular cryptocurrency, but the blockchain obviously is the next evolution of literally every way that we exchange things. And that is now written and will be there forever. Anyway, I want to talk about stocks. And the reason I want to talk about stocks is because I think it makes it much easier to understand see, this is a post-concussion thing I have now where I can't find the words. I'm usually pretty articulate. Luckily, you get to edit it, chop it all up, so I still sound smart-ish. I'm using an analogy that fits perfectly, and it'll make it a lot easier when I have this model laid out for you that talks about, the graph of stock values climbing and falling and when you should buy and sell, to take that and apply the actual point of this conversation to it. So let's talk about stocks. If you are like a day trader, like, it's two totally different things. Buy it, hold it forever. Don't be buying and selling. Don't do the risk. It's the long game. And that is a really, really, like, on average over the last 100 years, it's probably 8% per year just at the S&P 500 climb. So, like, it's a good place to put your money and just, like, leave it there if you can until forever. Well, not till forever, because then you're not using your money, and that's kind of stupid. Until you want to do something with it. I'm not as good at wrapping stuff up in a funny way as I used to be. Anyway, so if you are day trading, you're buying and selling stocks, okay? Like oftentimes you'll see, just like they go up and they go down, they go up and they go down. And sometimes this is like 1 point, right? And sometimes it's like $30 and sometimes it's hundreds of dollars, but it's the wave that I'm talking about. And then across that wave, you've sort of got a central line, like the median, like the mean, the average of what that value is. If you want to make money buying and selling stock, you don't have to buy it here, because that's really, really hard, kind of impossible to time, unless you're like insider trading. I mean, maybe you'll get lucky and you'll be like Martha Stewart and you'll be good buddies with Snoop and you'll do wine brands together. Have you tried 19 Crimes? It's pretty good. It is pretty good, yeah. So you don't have to buy at the very bottom and then sell at the very top, because it's impossible to do it legally, right? But if you take this line in the middle, as long as you buy below the line and sell above the line, you make money. That's a profitable trade. And that's all that matters. Trying to get it perfect on both ends is a huge waste of your time, because in the time it takes to do it, you could be investing that mental and physical, emotional energy into doing other things that are good for you. So this is a risk-reward calculation. What else can I be doing in this period of time? You don't have to buy here. You don't have to sell here. There's a line goes across the middle. Buy below the line, sell above the line. Everything's going to be okay. And that's the whole point. I challenge anybody to tell me that that's not a good idea. Like, you should buy below and sell above. Now, of course, there's little quirky, fun things you can do there where you buy stuff and sell options, and then like there's a bunch of other things in there. But generally speaking, you don't have to time the market perfectly because stock values will go up and down, but over time, they'll go up and down like this. Kind of exactly like real estate values over the long term. They go like this, but there is an average. But it's actually sort of like, oh, this is hard to do. How many times am I going to keep bringing this shit up with my elbow or my shoulder? And then this will be like the new thing that I always whine about, as opposed to you and my attention span. So it's actually more like this. So that average, that mean goes like that, but the values go up and down around it. Part of what drives values up and down, or the only thing that drives values up and down, is supply and demand. Price is only ever a function of supply and demand. So if a lot of people want a thing and there aren't enough things for all the people that want one, the thing is worth more money. And if almost nobody wants a thing, and the thing is available to everybody, it becomes kind of worthless, which might be why I'm still single. Well, this got dark. I'm happy. Anyway, please, Mom, listen, I promise, Mom, I'm cool. You don't have to move back in. It's okay. You don't have to move back in. I'm not lonely for you and Dad. Anyway, but you see what I'm talking about. Like that's how price is changed by supply and demand. Now, there's a million things, but one of the things that can affect demand is affordability. So if a house costs $200,000, it is, by definition, more affordable than a house that costs $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000. So the group of people that can buy it is larger. It doesn't necessarily mean they all want it, but the group is larger. If you are financing that purchase, so if the $200,000 thing that you're buying is money that you're borrowing from somebody else and they're charging you interest on it, which is fair, that $200,000 piece of real property will cost you more to carry on a monthly, biweekly, yearly basis if you're borrowing that money at 5% than if you're borrowing that money at 3.5%. So it becomes more affordable to people if the cost of borrowing money to buy it is decreased. And if the cost of borrowing money to buy it is increased, then it becomes less affordable. So that changes demand. And this is why people freak out when they see that the Bank of Canada raised their interest rates by 100 basis points. And what that means is 1%. A basis point is 1/100th of a percent. So it went from like 1.5 to 2.5, I think is what it was. Yeah. Anyway, so that's a 1% change in that the Bank of Canada's, the number that they're advertising. Interest rates will change buying power. Buying power refers to how much somebody can be qualified to spend on a monthly basis based on their income and their other debts. So there's a couple of different ratios that we assess to get that. But that monthly expenditure you can afford, spread over the course of whatever term and a mortgage, whatever amortization, if you work backwards, it gives you a purchase price that people will give you money for. The higher the interest, all other things considered equal, not changing, the less your buying power. The lower the interest, the more your buying power. So the less buying power people have, it's not the only thing, obviously. Like if the house is a piece of crap, nobody wants it anyway. And if the house is incredible, people want it anyway. But it does play a role in affecting the demand within a real estate market. And that can bring it down slightly. But it's only one thing. And again, if we go back to buying and selling your stonks, you don't have to buy at the lowest possible interest rate. Not only do you not have to buy at the lowest possible interest rate, you also don't have to sell at the lowest possible interest rate, right? As long as you're here, as long as you're below the line and then above the line, you're cool. So if you're thinking about selling right now and you're really, really concerned that these rates are going to make a difference, Well, first of all, if you've already got a pre-qualification in place, this doesn't change you. And at this point, if you're about to get a mortgage, like you don't have one yet. It's different if you're in a fixed term mortgage right now. Like a few years ago, right after COVID, I went real hard at my bank. We did a video on this. I went to the bank and I was like, here's my keys. A lot of stuff's changed in my life. My wife and I split. I can't afford this house anymore. Here's the keys. How do I do this? And they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I negotiated and I got myself was it a 4 or 5 year? I think it was a 4 year, 1.67 fixed rate for 4 years. So this doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't affect me even a tiny bit. But also, I'm not selling, so I don't care. Like if interest rates go up a bit and you're in a variable, you will go up a little monthly, probably. It depends, over the next 24 to 48 hours, we're going to see the big banks adjust their rates accordingly. But if you borrow $300,000, I mean, I would say somewhere between 75 and $100 a month, it'll probably affect you. But anyway, to go back to the stonks, when interest rates are super low, it increases buying power. But we're inherently kind of dumb sometimes with our finances, and we decide how much to spend on a property based on what the bank tells us we can afford. So if you can go get pre-approved now at a current rate for $375,000, that's the budget that you're shopping in. If you had went shopping 6 months ago at like a half of a point or a point and a half less interest rate, you might have got approved for $400,000. Possibly, I don't know. But then that would have been your budget. And that's what you would have looked at. So that doesn't mean that the house you are in right now is instantly worth less money because interest rates dropped. It's not how it happens. The demand and the supply is all that affects pricing. Don't overreact to this. I understand that functionally it affects your family dynamic, your family unit, your monthly budget for interest rates to change. But the good news is, this is an intent by the federal government to hedge against some historically bad inflation, but that inflation is indirectly, well, maybe kind of directly, the repercussions for having protected ourselves as a nation over a multi-year global health pandemic, where we did particularly well on a global scale. But this is all short term. By the end of 2022 and definitely into 2023, we're going to see them level out a little bit more. Now, having that said, they're still historically lower, kind of, than they've ever been before. Like I remember the first house that I bought, which was 15, 16, 17 years ago. Holy cow, I'm old. Was at 6.25%. And like when my parents bought, things were like, well, dad got his for $1 from his grandfather, so it's a little bit different. Back then, you were buying houses at interest rates that were like putting them on a credit card. So historically speaking, we're still very, very cheap money. And where else can you borrow money for like less than 5%? Like most lines of credit are like prime plus 2 or 3 or like, that is still very, very cheap money. Plus, if you buy something that got like an apartment in it, say, the interest rate that you pay on your mortgage is a tax deduction that comes off of your income. And maybe you'll get lucky and you'll be able to claim your apartment as a loss because lumber is so high that when you build the fence, it costs a fortune. And now your rental unit is a loss and you can claim that loss against your personal income tax. And the fact that your interest rate went up, put more money in your pocket at the end of the day. This is a way more detailed situation than Bank Canada went up 100 basic points, and I shouldn't be making fun of people. That's not fair. You know what? Not knowing is only the fault of all of the people around you and not of you, right? That's true. So, and that's a good way to round this out. That's the whole point of the Ask Jason show. Like to tell people things that it's not their fault they don't know. So you're freaking out about this interest rate thing. You really don't have to. It's fine. And if you're personally concerned about how it affects you, I'm not hard to reach. 770-3114. And I'm back on the socials, which reminds me, I need to go to Costco and buy a battery pack. I've been getting through like 2 days without charging for the last 9 months or so. And yesterday I went dead by like 3 o'clock because I'm back on social media. So did I get my point across, Joe? Do you think did this happen? Do you feel like you have enough information that you can like put this together into something that's somewhat compensatable?
What are we talking about again?
Anyway, so don't freak out about the interest rates. If you're shopping now and you've already got a purchase price in mind, that's based on the qualifying rate. So our government puts in place what they call a stress test that says, you say it's 5.5%. This is what you can afford at 5.5%. That's how we determine how much money to lend you. Then we're gonna lend you the money at 3.5%. And we put that other 2-point range in there because we want to protect you from making real shit decisions. Like, honestly, that's what we're doing. Which is why, like, they'll always give you a loan to buy a motorcycle, but they won't always give you a loan to buy a house. And in my personal experience, owning houses has been better for me than owning motorcycles. So I think that it stands to reason that that makes sense. And if you're locked in now at a fixed, doesn't even matter. All this is irrelevant for you. And if you're in a variable, sometime in the next week or so, you're gonna get something in the mail that tells you if and when your rate is gonna change and how that affects your payment. Bottom line, as clearly as I can put it, real estate values go up and down over time, and there's an average to those. It's one of the things that affects the up and down, not directly, but indirectly, is the cost of borrowing money. But it's not the only one, and it's actually kind of a small one, and it would have to happen on such a large scale for it to ruin your life because our government puts safeguards in order that this is a perfect example of something that you should not have a knee-jerk reaction to. And I think that's probably it. Yeah? Joe's giving me one of these. So I guess we're done. This feels nice. Like, just to be back here kind of feels nice. It's nice. I don't really want to stop. Like it's just fun. Okay, I don't
Cut.
Okay, that's it for this episode, and we will see you à la prochaine fois. Didn't know that, did ya? My daughter takes French immersion. See you next time!
The Ask Jason Show exists so that you can get good real estate related information from a resource that you can trust. Now, speaking of resources you can trust, here's a couple I would trust to work with my mom. Because good enough for mom, I mean, good enough for you.